And we're back with another episode of Inside Sports Fantasy Football. It's Gerald Glassford coming back to you from the Pop Culture Cosmos, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, and the Lakers Fast Break. We truly appreciate you catching all of our shows. And if you can, please give us that magical 5-star review wherever you get our podcasts. Plus, if you could like, share, and subscribe today to get the latest notifications on when we go live on the air with the latest Pop Culture Cosmos, Lakers Fast Break, State of Pro Wrestling, PCC Multiverse, and of course, Inside Sports Fantasy Football. It would be greatly appreciated. Well, NFL Week 8 is upon us. So many things going on. I know Chris Ardieri would love to be here from the Domination Sports Nation, but he is on vacation, a little mini vacation right now. So here today, it's just me and, of course, the football Steelers guru himself. He is Ox1947 at LakersBall.com and also as well, Mr. Simblades with a Y.com. It is Joe Soro. And Joe, glad to have you here. And before we dive into Week 8 with our picks, our fantasy football options, and of course, woof, 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 a trip to the doghouse, we would be neglecting the issue of what went on with the Steelers. A tale of two halves with Russell Wilson. Again, it was so good to watch. And I was watching it, glancing back and forth. And I don't know if you saw the fans, Joe, in Pittsburgh when Russell Wilson was struggling. Well, I think it was like 2 of 8 to start off the game or something like that. He looked bad. He was throwing the ball. He wasn't getting anywhere near the receivers. There were people in the audience, Joe, going like this, like, get rid of him. Oh, and it was terrible. But all of a sudden, second half came around. He lit up and looked in many ways like the Russell Wilson of old. 2 touchdowns, and he guided the team to an easy victory. Your thoughts, my friend, on Russell Wilson? Can he continue the success? And should people in fantasy football be interested in picking him up?
Fantasy football quarterbacks, the ones that are valuable are usually ones that can run. Most of the leagues that have pass first only type quarterbacks, there's only so much you can do. If the quarterback throws it for, let's say, 250, right? Hell, let's just say 300.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to get what? 2 points for every 25 yards, or is it 1 point? Depending on like the general normal number, right?
Yeah. It depends on the league. Depends on the league, but I think it's closer to 1.
Okay, so 1 for every 25. So that's 4 points times 3. That's 12 points. And if they throw 3 touchdown passes, that's 4 points per touchdown pass, which is 12. Now you have 24 points. Not bad.
Mm-hmm.
Not bad. But believe it or not, a quarterback that throws a couple touchdown passes and passes for 250, yet runs for a score and then runs for 70 yards, numbers are a little bit better that way. As far as my assessment on the Steelers, the season is becoming very interesting. It might be the season where a okay quarterback might win a Super Bowl. What do you define as an okay quarterback? Someone who is an elite like Patrick Mahomes. Because at this point, I think Patrick Mahomes, in a lot of ways, might be the only elite quarterback left in the NFL. I'm talking Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Roethlisberger, Manning types. If anybody can say otherwise, I know Jared Goff has a place there. I know Josh Allen has a place there. But do you consider those guys elite? I think they're just very, very, very good. And then you have elite in Patrick Mahomes. Lamar Jackson throws for 5 touchdown passes and has 2 MVPs. And statistically, in those situations, someone could call him elite. I won't. Because Lamar Jackson can be diffused with the right team. It's just what it is. I've never worried about Lamar Jackson, at least as a Steeler fan. The Steelers have his number. They own him. And I'm thinking if there's a time where Lamar can probably win a championship, it's probably this year before maybe some of the other guys start to develop. I don't know. I think the NFL is probably going to have to change the rules again to help the offenses score. I think the defenses have caught up now. I don't want them to do that, but I'm scared that they are going to do it. Joe Bash Bronig. No, BTS, I'm not doing that here. I think there's enough. That pinata is busted. It's been busted enough. Time to move on.
So with that, again, we're 7 weeks already into the season, coming up on week 8. There are some teams out there that are starting to get desperate. At this point, the waiver wire in many ways has run dry. You're going to have to start looking to make trades before the trade deadline happens in all these fantasy leagues. What are the options out there for people as far as trades are concerned? Like me, who lost Brandon Ayuk to a major knee injury. That's been devastating. It's my second one that I've had on my team as far as it's concerned in consecutive weeks, for that matter. People will start getting desperate to go ahead and make changes. Where would you turn to as far as trade targets are then? Let's say it's you that needs to make a trade. Where do you go to
Well,
first?
I'm gonna kind of break down what happened to me. So I was in conflict. I'm in 2 leagues because I can't be in anymore. After a while, it starts to become I start to not play well when I'm due more than 2.
Mhm.
Um, I made a conscious decision to draft McCaffrey in one league and Robinson in the other. They were the 2 running backs at the time that were slated to be the best, the top guys up there. Now Robinson hasn't really been worldly up until this last week. But if I had drafted him in the league I drafted McCaffrey, I would have probably won 2 more weeks. I hit the dump the first 3 weeks of the league, of both my leagues. Just kept running into really bad luck. One, the fact that I had to really focus on how the hell I was going to get around missing McCaffrey and his points. And then, of course, my other league being I just kept playing the guys that kept dropping 175 points. So in one of my leagues, the receivers that I drafted were Drake London and Reed out of Green Bay. And then I had Tank Dell thinking that would be a pretty good trio. Tank has been tanking all year. I finally am benching him this week. And Atwell is a guy I picked up off the wire. He's someone that could be valuable down the road, especially during the bye weeks. I would say if I'm going to trade for another receiver, it's probably not necessary. I think I have the right guys there just because I battled. I paid attention enough to where I was able to get someone like Atwell off the wire. I stockpiled the receivers that probably weren't kind of known, where I thought, well, Kirk Cousins is in Atlanta. That means he's going to probably throw the ball more. So getting somebody like Drake London added on his ascent would help. However, I could use Reed or London to go get maybe somebody more impactful in terms of a running back. Right now, my running backs are Hunt, Hubbard, and White. White is another guy that kind of came through a little bit finally for the first time in what 7 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And see, that's the problem with fantasy football, folks, is if you give up on guys too much. Last year, I still say this from last year in one of my leagues, I gave up on Dak Prescott way too early when I drafted him. And I think that cost me the championship in the end because I was struggling with a quarterback the rest of the year. And he was playing really well. So this year, I made a conscious effort to stick with what I had, even though I started 0-3 in both leagues. And right now, I'm 3-4 in that other league. I'm coming. And I am miles ahead of the person I'm playing next. I'm slated to get 440 points just off my basic lineup. And usually when you have a good week like that, usually that means it's probably going to be 170, 180. I'm not a big trade guy, Gerald. I rarely trade. I rarely trade because I don't really need to trade. I know how to structure the team. There are times where I get lost to the point where the injuries take a toll, and that particular league this does not have anyone available over the wire because we're we just are able to stack talent on the bench, and you have guys that sometimes will take three or two or three guys, and they'll be just sitting on their bench, and nobody can get them. I've been trying to campaign for in both my leagues to try and put a cap on roster spots. So looking at my roster spot, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 uh, bench slots. I think it should be gone. I'm going to push to see if they can do it, take it down to at least 5. Then you can have a chance if things go wrong. But that's a story for next time. Right now, if I had to give you an answer to your question, I don't think I'd do anything. I don't think I'd trade anybody right now.
Okay. But if that's the case, who looks good out there? Because to some other owners out there, they're, like I said, the Ayuk injury and some other major injuries that have happened over the course of the past few weeks might be necessitating. Now, I may have just enough depth. I don't really have to go ahead and sell my soul to bring anyone in, but still, there are other team owners out there that might be getting a little bit antsy because they feel they need to be a win now state. So, is there anyone out there that you think may be a good trade target to have? I mean, as far
I
as
would go after if you haven't. I know some people drafted George Pickens thinking he was going to take that leap. Unfortunately, Justin Fields is not the prototypical quarterback where he's going to sit in the pocket and drop 303 touchdowns. I would see if you can go get him because I think if Russell Wilson stays healthy and the Jets don't have a bad defense, by the way. He shredded a very good. It's not they weren't as good as they were last year, but this is still a very good defense, and he shredded that defense. So I'm expecting them to do very, very well this week as well because the Giants don't have as good of a defense. Their team is in shambles right now. Sorry, Chris, that is what it is, and Jeff as well. I would try to go get someone like Pickens. Maybe he might not fetch as much of a gold mine in that situation. Go get him, and you might get a chance to get someone that could be a number one for your team if you're struggling with receivers.
well, we'll see what happens. Coolbro says Puka should be back. So hopefully sometimes next month. But the trade target in real life, Joe, has turned to, and which might break Coolbro's heart even more, the fact that Cooper Kupp might be available with the Rams season not exactly going the way they wanted to. Cooper Kupp has, obviously some value throughout the league, and we've seen in the past 2 weeks major wide receivers or big names from recent years and recent seasons getting traded to other teams. So with that said, Cooper Kupp's name is out there. Do you think he gets traded in the not too distant future?
It would depend on his health. If he can come back and be 100% healthy. I know 100% is kind of relative depending on years in service in the NFL, but someone that could make a difference as a second receiver, which is what the Steelers need right now. Because if you got Cooper Kupp, who actually wasn't bad at the beginning of the year before he got hurt, he was playing pretty well because Puka had left due to injury as well. If he is healthy and can play the number 2 on the Steelers team, that could change a lot of things. Because now George is not going to have anybody shading to his side. And he's already a force when he has people covering him. So now if you have to pay attention to Cooper Kupp, who is not only a fantastic receiver when he's on, but he's that guy that can get separation and get you those first downs on 3rd and 7. You do that, now you have to deal with being able to take more risks, or the Steelers taking more risks and throwing the ball just up in the air for George Pickens. George Pickens is not Randy Moss, but he has the hands that can give you some of those plays every now and then during the game, and that relieves a lot of stress to the offense because you don't have to think too much. You don't have to create separation or have a perfect pass as much by the quarterback and not have to deal with the pressure to do the perfect pass. If you can just get it out there and he's single coveraged and you can't really shade too much out there because you're worried about Fryermuth in the middle and you're worried about Cooper Cup on the other side, that now becomes an offense that becomes a little bit more potent. The Steelers defense right now is doing very well. That's how they built this team, right? Because they don't have a lot invested in the quarterback, and you can do that when you have great defenses and great players that you can pay. If the Steelers win the next couple games, which I think they will, they now essentially go into the middle of the season where they're going to be having one of the hardest schedules I've seen in a long time. They're essentially playing the entire division and then Philly and Kansas City to finish the year out. So the last 8 games is the AFC North, which is no matter who it is, no matter how pathetic the Bengals and Browns can be, they're still a division rival. They still have to play hard to beat those teams. Then you have Kansas City, and then you have Philly. Yeah, I know Philly isn't the juggernaut it was a few years ago, but it's still, you got to deal with some stuff there. So you go, let's say if they win the next couple games, you're going to go into that juggernaut to finish half the season, let's say 7-2. Do you come out of there successful 4-4? Sure. 11-6. You're putting yourself in a really good position there if you finish the year 11-6. You might not win the division. You might have to beat Baltimore twice. And then now you're 12-5. You're having a season that I actually didn't expect them to have. I actually expected a 5-12 season. So yeah, I think Cooper Kupp, someone like a Cooper Kupp, healthy to be able to finish the year, that could be an interesting scenario. There could be a situation there where the Steelers don't have to play Baltimore and Kansas City in the playoffs if they win the division. And then you can get lucky, like the Bengals got lucky against Kansas City a couple years ago. You could have a game where they shock the world. And if you win that game and you get to the Super Bowl and you play somebody like Detroit or the Niners, I'm not afraid of Detroit. I'm not afraid of the Niners. I know the Niners are reeling right now, but they still have a good coach and a good quarterback, and they're experienced. But it's not as. This is probably one of the weakest NFL seasons in terms of like a runaway team that I've seen in a while.
Once again, it is Inside Sports Fantasy Football. It is Joe Soro along with me, Gerald Glassford. Thanks so much again for watching, listening. Truly appreciate it. So with that, for the last half of the show, we'll talk about NFL Week 8. And before we get to our picks, are there any matchups as far as just from a fantasy football level or just as a casual fan, Joe, that you're really interested to watch this weekend?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Just any games that you feel need to be noted before we get into our our football picks for this weekend.
Well, when I was looking at the schedule earlier this week, I was like, yeah. And you were looking at games like Cardinals versus Miami, Green Bay versus the Jaguars, Texas versus it's a really bad week actually. Even the really good teams are playing lousy teams. The Ravens are playing Cleveland. The Thursday night games, I've been pretty much missing every Thursday night game because this lame Prime Video bullshit. I'm like, I'm not gonna get on my TV and click on a damn link to watch a freaking full. That is such a stupid. I don't know. I know they're probably making money. They're making $1 billion on that deal, but I'm like, I'm not going to go out of my way to go click on a link to watch the freaking Rams and Vikings. Like, I don't know what's going on here. Most intriguing, if I had to pick, geez, maybe Dallas and San Francisco because it's Dallas and San Francisco. But everything else is terrible. Seriously, look at the schedule. What is one marquee game this week? I'll run it by real quick. You have Vikings against the Rams, snooze fest. Ravens versus the Cleveland Browns, snooze. Lions against the Titans, snooze. Colts, Texans, snooze. Green Bay in Jacksonville, snooze. Cardinals, Dolphins, snooze. Jets, Patriots, lousy. Falcons, Buccaneers, maybe. Philly, Bengals, okay, maybe. Saints, Chargers, snooze. Bills, Seahawks, probably the most competitive game, I think, of the week between the two. Bears in Washington, they're playing well, but I don't know. I guess the theme there is the first two picks of the year, right? But this is a lousy week for like marquee games. But then again, I'm starting to notice that the longer the season goes, the more the mediocrity of the NFL is just spewing like crazy. Am I wrong or am I being harsh?
I think it'll be a little bit harsh. It's not that hard to
Really?
do Amazon Prime. For me, it's just I grab my remote, which happens to be Amazon Fire Remote. 2 clicks, 3 clicks, boom, I'm on Amazon Prime. It's usually the first thing I see on the digital bill. But then again, you're different though. Hey guys, he has you have the satellite, correct? So it would be turn off the satellite, turn on whatever, put on the computer, get on Amazon Prime, type in it. Yeah, so it's a little bit more legwork involved. So it's different. I'll give you that. I will correct my statement and give you the fact that it is a little bit more work for you than it is for me with just one remote.
Cool, bro. How the hell do you know anything about Norm Van Brocklin?
Or Crazy Legs Hirsch.
Your dad wasn't born when those guys were playing. Did you pull that out of your butt reading something on the internet?
Joe likes his satellite bag and dragon. He likes his
If I wanted to watch something on my phone primarily, it's not going to be football. I'm not going to be like this all day. What the hell? What is that? I want a TV where I can sit and watch like a human being.
I just use the Fire Stick. I just plug it into the HDMI, and there it is. So I have a feeling if you ever decide to switch, or smart TVs, like my new one or newer one in the living room, that has all the apps built in, except for YouTube TV. No, that one doesn't. But yeah, outside that, yeah, they all plug in there. Prime Video, Disney Plus, Hulu, whatever, they're all already in there. So
here's the problem with apps.
Here we go.
You ready?
Of course.
I can't dual tuner it. I can't split screen it.
He's right on that one. It's hard to do.
I
will say, well, hold on. Let me say this. YouTube TV, if you do get YouTube TV, they do split the games into two
I'm not
or 4.
paying $100 a month for freaking apps. Okay, I'll pay $100 for DirecTV so I can actually control what I'm watching and I can record it like a normal person and rewind and all this and not have to rely on the internet. I have a satellite for a reason. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's, to me, this whole app thing, it's supposed to be something when you're mobile, not a primary. And these assholes have primaried this stuff. That's what pisses me off. It's an inferior way of watching the game. I like apps when I'm traveling and I can watch on my phone. For example, there was a week where I went to visit family, and the drive from the Palisades to the desert was one of the activities. Normally, we'd have to wait to watch the game before we left. But with technology and the apps on the phone, all we did was switch seats. My wife drove and knew I wanted to watch the game. I ended up watching the game on the phone. That is cool. But I don't want to do that shit at home. It's an inferior. They've gone backwards in terms of quality. Stupid. It's a stupid way to do it. Give me the option. I'm paying $100 for DirecTV. Can I get it on my goddamn TV? Can you do both? If you're so enamored with, oh well, people are streaming now. Great, that's nice. Can you hook me up too? I've been watching your shit for 30 years. Why do I get asked out? The greedy assholes.
And on that, it is, of course, NFL Week 8. It is, of course, Joe Soro, a.k.a. Ox1947, along with me, Gerald Glassford. Thanks so much again for listening. So before we get to the doghouse and our underdog picks of the week, Joe, favorites, not favorites, before you get to your underdog special and the doghouse, are there any lines that are speaking to you that Xbox or anybody out there might be interested for entertainment purposes only?
Boy. We're going lines or just wins?
Yeah, just lines. Just lines. It could be a favorite. Doesn't have to be, again, we'll go underdog with the doghouse because I've got a good one for me that I'm
gonna go out. I'm not liking 11 for Detroit, even though they're playing well. That's 11 is always a double digits in an NFL game with parity. I'm not a fan of that typically.
Okay.
And yeah, I think if I had to pick a game, I'm picking the Titans in the Detroit game. I think Detroit wins by a touchdown.
I am surprised it's so close between the Jags and the Packers. Right now, there's only a 4-point spread. So I'm with the Packers getting the 4. Love has been doing pretty good so far, after getting off to a little bit of a shaky start. So yeah, I'm kind of surprised there. Also, the other game that I think of interest before we get to our underdog picks, that of course, Jerry, we're looking at our weekly maybe bash the Cowboys deal as the Cowboys and 49ers face off. Man, this season doesn't get any easier for the Cowboys, Joe. Where has it all gone wrong in Dallas?
You just said it. Jerry Jones. I never thought in a million years I'd see an owner absolutely napalm his own team more than Al Davis the last 30 years of his tenure. But Jerry Jones is as close to a jilted chick in a relationship as I've ever seen in sports in terms of how he operates. He has absolutely no clue. You want to talk about narcissism? It's crazy to say this. Even LeBron can't hold a candle to Jerry Jones's narcissism. That's saying a lot. Wow. I mean, Jerry Jones is so absolutely just, it's not confusion. He's not an idiot. There's none of that. It's just a waste. He's a waste. He's wasted. You can't get this back. You can't get 30 years of just shit for no reason. He didn't have to do it this way. He had no reason to do it this way. If he had just done it right, the Cowboys would have won Super Bowls by now. I'm sure of it. If he just found the right guys. But he wants to do it his way. He's that guy that says, you know what? It didn't work the other 400 billion times, but it's going to work 400 billion and one. And he's just sticking with it. And the people who support the Cowboys, just like we discuss about the Lakers, you're the problem. You keep going to Dallas, you still go to the Cowboy Stadium, and you still pay that money for the ridiculous parking charging and charges and those season tickets, and you all think the same way as Jerry Jones, and then you criticize them after they lose. You're the same. You keep going to the games. I'm not going to the games. I'm sure Chiefs fans aren't really going to the games unless the Chiefs are playing there. Or maybe they're going there if they live there and they just want to go to a game. But they're not invested like the Cowboy fans are. You are allowing Jerry Jones to continue to do what he's doing. And at the same time, the TV contracts have also allowed him to do this. This wouldn't have been accepted back in the 60s, 70s, 80s when you had to have people show up. Now the TV contracts all but guarantee that they're going to get what they want regardless if they stink or not. If you don't believe me, look at the Cleveland Browns. Those guys can continue to sign morons and people who don't do shit for their team, and yet they're still existing. So, yeah, by just name recognition, I'd say that the Niner Dallas game will be a game to watch. But in terms of its substance, it's not really there because I think the Niners, while when you're a good coach like Kyle Shanahan and you have a steady quarterback, you always have a chance in the NFL. But at the same time, this thing could come off the tracks if more injuries keep coming. It could happen.
So before we head on out, it is that time. We head on down, look over our shoulder, see that fall is starting to creep on in. Although here in Vegas, it's still 90 freaking degrees. So we had like one fantastic day and can't have that for long, can we? So went right back up again. Yes. So with that, my friend, it is time to go ahead and look out on the lawn, and you see the dog there, and it's time to head over to woof woof woof, head over to the doghouse. So with that, who is your underdog pick for NFL week?
What's my record this year for underdogs?
I know you got like 3 in a row. Xbox was very happy. He made a lot of money off you, even though, again, we do not encourage that. It's for entertainment purposes only. I think you went 3-1, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't think I've lost.
Okay. Thought you lost in that last one.
No, if I've picked a team, I've missed a few weeks. That's probably why you don't remember. But I think I've picked every underdog and they've won. Okay, looking at the horrible schedule. I mean, I don't really even know if any of these games could have a really big underdog, but I guess if I had to roll with something that would be considered a true underdog, I don't believe that the Titans will have to worry. I don't think the Lions will cover, but then I will also roll with the fact that there's a slight chance that the Titans could go in Detroit and win. So I'm picking the long shot in the Titans beating Detroit in Detroit.
I will take the closer underdog in the Eagles. They're on the road at Cincinnati. They will need a great game from Saquon Barkley, and I think they will get it. I know he's come back into the lineup, played very strong, still one of the leaders in fantasy football. I think I'm going to go ahead with them. It's only a 2-3, depending on where you get it from, but I'll go ahead and I will take the cover for the Eagles.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Good pick.
So with that, Joe, it is NFL Week 8. It is Inside Sports Fantasy Football. If anybody out there has any questions on lineup, waiver wire, trade issues, or just your plain lineup, like earlier with Nakomi, she had a great question earlier. Just hit us up, isfantasyfootball@yahoo.com. But Joe, any last thoughts on your Steelers or anything going on in NFL Week 8 before we head on out?
I hope to see a repeat of my teams beating New York teams I think it's quite poetic that it's turning into this. You guys hear that?
That
Sound
was
like a
weird.
ghost.
Yeah, it did. Maybe it's because it's the season. There you go.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, I find it, it's been a good week for my teams. They've been slaughtering the New York teams. And it just so happens that the Steelers are playing the Giants this week. And of course, the Dodgers are playing the New York Yankees. I am feeling pretty comfortable that this week and change will be the perfect week, the perfect few weeks in terms of my teams beating New York teams. I'm expecting the Dodgers to beat the Yankees in the World Series, and I'm expecting the Steelers to beat the Giants after they just beat the New York Jets. And that's what I'm sticking to. So I'm excited about seeing the results of that.
Bag of Dragon says, getting married soon. Should I get a Lakers ring? If that's the case, that's probably one more ring than the Lakers themselves will earn this season.
If you're going to get a ring, I'd get a black tungsten ring. Just make sure that it's loose a little because those things don't cut.
There you go. Sound advice. Gives you even sound advice.
No, cool, bro. My house was brand new when it was built, and I'm going to tell you, I'm going to tell you what I've told my kids since they were little. Ghosts don't show up in Joe Soros' house. Ghosts are afraid of me.
Joe haunts his own house, and I think that's all.
And it worked, folks. My kids were never scared of ghosts in the house because I taught them very young. The ghosts don't come. They're scared of daddy. And they believe me. And there's never been any ghosts that have shown up.
And with that, it is Inside Sports Fantasy Football. Again, if you have questions for us, IS Fantasy Football, if you're watching this on the Pop Culture Cosmos, I should hopefully be able to get you something.
The third person didn't seem right.
What?
I think that's the first time I've ever done that.
There you go. Well, there you go. Your
Your
future as Dion. There you go. Absolutely.
Who?
In the third person. Dion.
Dion who? Warwick?
Never mind. Sanders, who always refers to himself as prime time in the third person. And on that note, it is Inside Sports Fantasy Football. We will be back next week. Hopefully, Chris will be able to join us for that. But for Lakers Fast Break fans, we'll be back tomorrow night with more insight into the world of basketball. And for Pop Culture Cosmos, we look for more shows on that channel as well. But for Joe Soro, a.k.a. Ox1947 at LakersBall.com, it's me, Gerald Glassford. Thanks again for watching, listening. Here's wishing you the best of luck for Week 8 in the NFL from all of us right here at Inside Sports Fantasy Football.
Suck it, cool bro.
Joe.